Hello, Scribblers. I'm Katie, the owner and CEO of the Scribblers Den, your online source for writing craft courses and writing community. Thank you so much again for joining us. We have another phenomenal interview for you today. We're excited to welcome Kate Boudreaux. Kate is an acclaimed author and screenwriter known for authentic Southern storytelling across genres. Praised by some of the South's finest voices, her debut novel, Backwater, has been optioned for film. Awesome, with Kate serving as the screenwriter for the adaptation. Kate is especially drawn to book to film adaptations and welcomes collaborations with authors, producers, and studios to translate novels into screenplays that honor the original work while making a powerful impact on the screen. You can visit her website to order her books or contact her about working on adapting your own novel for the screen. So, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I do have to say that whenever like I'm a Katie, you're a Kate. Whenever there are two of us in an area, like it's a lot of power. I have yet
It
to
is.
meet another Kate, Catherine, like all the versions of us that hasn't been absolutely phenomenal. So super excited for this.
I love it. People always want to know, is Kate my just it? I'm like, yeah, that's it. There's nothing else. It's never been Katie. I would correct
Uh,
people as a child. They would try to call me Katie, and I would be like, my name is Kate. What kind of old
yeah,
woman was that?
same. I'm just a Katie. Like that's it. I'm not a Catherine or a Caitlin
Yeah,
or anything like
yeah.
that. And there's about three people that I let call me Kate because it's a
Mhm.
very it's the same name essentially, but we're very different.
Right.
Kates are
Yeah,
not Kates
yeah.
and Katies are not Kates.
Yes. Kids are serious.
Yeah, like it's
Are we
it's
the
weird.
less fun version? I don't know.
We're the more fun version because we have fewer letters to deal with, so we're the best.
I love it.
We're gonna get comments from all the Caitlins and Catherines out there being like, "Excuse me," I'm like, "No, we love you too." All right,
Don't
so
send us
let's just go.
hate.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and we'll dive in. Can you tell us what sparked your love for writing and kind of what your publishing journey has been like so far?
We could spend the entire episode on that, honestly. I'll try to
Awesome.
make it brief. Um, okay, I was not a writer as a child. Some people were like, I was born writing. I was not. I loved reading, but I never met a writer. I don't know. It just seemed like something that was just like not an option as far as a hobby. Nobody in my family is a writer or even really a reader. They're storytellers,
Okay.
verbal storytellers. But so I've always loved that. Whenever we get together, around a campfire or whatever, it's story after story. And that's kind of the way I think my family and a lot of the South preserve their history, the local history. So I've always loved that. But yeah, I never took any classes on writing. It was not an interest of mine. I was not a good student as far as enjoying school. And so I always want to talk about that because I think kids or even adults think that if they didn't love English class, they're probably not a writer. And that, honestly, the best writers I know were not cut out for the school system. They're not the kind that sat down or like, here's what you do and here's the prompt and you have to follow this. We don't follow rules very well.
No, we
Um,
don't.
so I always like to encourage people just because you didn't think that you were cut out for it, or just because your English teacher didn't think you were cut out for it, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. And as far as I didn't start writing until I was 30, and I'll be 40 on the first. And so this decade really taught me a lot. I had a story that Backwater was my first anything I'd ever sat down and tried to
Mhm.
do. And I wrote a really terrible first draft and I made my mom read it. As she got saddled with that. And
Thanks,
after
Mom.
she's brutally honest, and after she read it, she said, baby, I don't think so. And I was like, you don't think so? Like for what? And she was like, just just for all of it, just
Oh,
general, just maybe not. And I was like, no. I was like, I'll get better. So then I really, really worked on finding my voice, reading good literature that really kind of helps teach you,
yes.
because there's a ton of stuff out there to read, and not all of it is helpful. Um, but I ended up having three different literary agents over the past 10 years, and that was a long journey.
Yeah.
I could go on a trip about that. But I ended up finding the perfect home for it with Gilded Press. It's a small press, and I love it because it's a collaborative thing. I get to
Hmm.
have a lot of control over my covers and stuff that matters, and pretty much anything that I want to write, I'm allowed to. Whereas sometimes really big publishers, and I didn't know this at first, I just thought that was the dream. Um, but I have friends who have, deals with bigger publishers, and they're not happy because, they'll change the title. They'll
Yeah.
basically tell them what they have to write. If that first book isn't a smash, seller, they kind of forget they exist, and they don't even look at their second or third books, even if
Yeah.
they like them. So it's very driven by numbers, and they don't even spend a lot of marketing on the new books
No.
unless they see it's doing well on its own already. So I was scared to self-publish when I first started. I needed validation. I felt like I needed somebody saying I was good enough, or whatever. And so, but now I'm at the point where I would totally do that now. But I'm really happy with my publisher. They're just amazing.
No, they
So,
sound really cool. And I think you're right with so much of that. Traditional publishing, there's a lot of constraints on what an author can do at different points.
mhm,
And they lose some of that creative control. Whereas with a small press or even self-publishing, you get to retain that control. And I think that's really important to a lot of us because these are like works of our heart, and we don't
right.
want people to change them.
And you don't want what makes your story unique to be
Yes.
lost. And, big publishers, a lot of times they only like my first book, some people call it Southern women's fiction, some people call it Southern romance, but it has a lot of very specific regional things that are very authentic in it. However, some of the editors and publishers I've talked to over the years really wanted me to take all that out. They were like, you know, they just kind of want you to either fit in a Hallmarky box,
Hmm.
or they want you to fit in a super dramatic, awful, clawing your way out kind of box. It's
Right.
really strange with Southern fiction. And I was like, this is neither of those things. This is about poor people being happy in spite of their situation. And almost because of it,
Hmm.
people who are really connected to nature, and they just don't, their priorities aren't the same as the rest of the world. And that's okay. And they were just could not wrap their head around it. So,
Wow. Yeah, you wouldn't want to take like that's your voice. That's what makes that story so unique. And like to me as a reader, I would be more interested in your story because it has that authenticity to it and it doesn't
yeah.
just have like the generalizations.
Right. And to me, I would rather never publish at all if I was going to be
Yeah.
forced to publish something that wasn't true, true to the people, because that's
Hmm.
why I wrote it, is to capture some. It has a lot of old hunting and fishing stories and different things that have really happened to either my family or my husband's or someone we know, and a lot of characters that are, even though they're specific, they are universal. I've had people from other countries, someone from Germany contacted me and was like, how do you know my family? This is my family. I'm like, this is rural East Texas in the river bottom. I'm pretty sure it's not your family, but it really resonated with them
Hmm.
because
Those universal
country,
human themes that we have.
and
Yeah.
especially people who live out in the country in a rural setting, yeah, it's universal no matter where you are.
Hmm.
We traveled all over the US, my husband and I, with his job. And it's funny because every state we go to, we could be close to New York City and we'll find people like us, and
Yes.
it doesn't matter what you sound like or where you're from. It country people are kind of their own thing, and there's more of us out there than people want, normally think about.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, as someone who also like, I mean, I grew up on a dirt road and it was like 45 minutes to get into like the grocery store. Um,
Right.
yeah, like it's a completely different upbringing and we are out there and we're still here. And it's
Yeah. And no
yeah.
matter where you choose to live or whatever, there's certain little things about your childhood or whatever that whenever you go back, it'll make you almost like want to cry because you
Yes.
miss it. You're like, I never thought I would miss a dirt road, but here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
So,
I drove by my childhood home like 3 weeks ago and the road is now tarred and chipped and I'm like, oh, what's happening? This is wrong. But it did it like it touched like right inside of here and I got a little weepy. I'm like, oh my gosh, so many memories. It just
yeah,
never
I
goes
love
away.
that. Yes, exactly.
Um, so your publishing journey has been like incredible. What kind of inspired you to shift over to screenplays, or what inspired your love for screenplays and developing different works for films?
So, my second literary agent, he hosted a really nice like writers retreat in Hollywood, and
Ooh,
so a lot of us went on that, and it was like a week long thing. And I brought a friend, and excuse me, we ended up meeting a lot of producers and screenwriters who were talking about it, and it really got me interested in learning that. Because I mean, I had never even read a screenplay. You have to really
yeah,
like search that out. It's not like it's on, Amazon or
yeah.
something. So, I thought, I really want to learn more about this. And so for anybody who is, and I don't have it in here, anybody who's looking to learn screenwriting, I would say order Save the Cat.
Okay,
It's really
yeah,
good
great
too.
resource.
Yes, it's amazing. And The Hollywood Standard is a really good book for formatting. It has like all the rules, and all those rules are very tedious and it's easy to forget. So I keep it by me. And as I'm writing, I'm constantly flipping through it, and it may be a rule that I know that I know, but I want to double check
Right.
myself just to see. Um, so I actually wrote the screenplay for Backwater probably 3 years or so before before I even had a publishing deal for it. So there was definitely nobody asking to see the screenplay. But I just really felt like I needed to do that. I always say I just felt like God just put that desire on
Mhm.
me. So final draft is what you need if you're software wise. And I read a few screenplay books. I read a couple of screenplays and I thought, what do I have to lose? Nobody's seeing this. If I mess it up, it's fine. So I got done with it and I was pretty happy with it. And by the time I published with Gilded Press, my publisher, I was able to get in touch with a producer and get us on the phone. And we made our first sale to a producer that way. And that was super magical. He
Yeah.
assigned a screenwriter, another more seasoned screenwriter, to go over it with me and really
Mhm.
help me fine tune it and kind of learn some of those things. And then we ended up buying the project back from that producer and selling it to the producer that I have now. The first one was really great, but they were just so busy that I just felt, every time we would talk to them, they were like, well, in the
It
next
wasn't a
couple of
priority.
years,
Yeah.
we may get to, and I was like, that feels like a really long time. So I love Chris, my producer now. He's a go-getter and, he really keeps us on track.
No, that's
So
awesome. I love
yeah,
that
so
you did it like long, like not long before, but you did it 3 years before it was even like
yeah,
something that you were really considering.
yeah. It was strange though because whenever my publisher decided to talk to that first producer,
Mhm.
it was one of those things where producers, they don't want to read your book. They're not going
No.
to. They just don't have time. Their attention span is about this long normally. So a screenplay, for them to even sit through a screenplay is something. So you have to really capture their attention like right out of the gate. And so thankfully I had it on hand because he was like, I really don't have time for a book. Like, do you have anything else? I'm like, actually, I have a screenplay. I don't know how
Yeah.
good it is, but I do have it. And so that really helped to have a lot of writers too. Will write a screenplay version of their novels and exercise just to kind of whenever you flesh out your story to the bare bones,
Mhm.
all the exposition is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
You really see what your plot is, if it's working. So it's a good thing to do, I think, even if you don't plan, to try to be a screenwriter.
Mhm.
It really can help just novelists.
Yeah. I have somewhere on my shelf back here, I have a book on like writing screenplays, which has helped me just because it does. I think because screenplays rely so heavily on that dialogue piece, it really forces you
Hmm.
to make everything that somebody says so meaningful and so impactful. And it's
Yeah.
improved me as a novelist, even though I've tried to write a screenplay. Um, and this actually kind of ties into our next question. I think like 10 years ago or something like that, I even bought a different book, not the one I have now. It was
Yeah.
something along like the Dummy's Guide to Writing Screenplays.
Mhm.
I'm old enough to remember all those Dummy's Guides books. I don't
Me
know
too.
if
Yeah.
anybody else is, but they were really popular. And then I just never wrote it because I started to see how different it was from writing a manuscript. And my brain is just not wired that way. So I can do some of the exercises to improve my
Yeah.
writing. Um, but I don't think I have any screenplays in me.
Were you trying to write something from scratch or were
Oh
you trying
yeah.
to convert?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so
Trying to write something from
that's going to be
scratch,
your
of
hard.
course.
That's going to be your hardest. I would say anybody who's starting out and if they're a writer, try to convert your own work, even if you're not done with it. Even if you
Mhm.
only have one chapter of your book written and you want to, work on that. I would say start there because yeah, coming up with something from scratch is scary in the screenwriting world. For me, anyways, coming up with an 80,000 word novel is so much easier.
I agree.
But
And that doesn't seem like it should be that way because a screenplay is like usually about like 100 pages.
yeah, about 110
Yeah.
is, somewhere around there.
Hmm. With a
And
lot of
yeah,
blank space, a lot of white space on those pages.
yes. Yeah, you can't have like big chunks because the readers like they
Yes.
want it to go quickly. They want to be able to turn that page
Hmm.
pretty fast. So you really have to pare it down to what is most important. And that is hard for a writer, a novelist to do because as far I was telling
We
somebody
think
yesterday,
everything's important.
in Backwater, so all of my really favorite, like in the part of the screenplay that in Save the Cat they refer to as like fun and games, all them falling in love.
Yes.
Those are all of my favorite scenes, and there's quite a lot, in there in the novel, but in the screenplay, all of that is condensed to like a one-page montage, and that's it. Like,
Yes.
there's not even any dialogue, and that I was like, oh no, but it had to happen that way. Otherwise, you would lose the viewer's
Right.
attention because there's only so much of any. Screenplays are a lot more based on a formula than novels. Novels can get away with a lot more.
Hmm.
Yeah, screenplays pretty much like on this page, this needs to be happening, or somebody's asleep in the chair trying to watch it. So,
It's probably my mom. My mom sleeps through everything, no matter how
a lot
exciting
of
it is.
people
Hi,
do.
mom. I love you, but you do fall asleep at movies.
I know. Yeah, I'm the same way sometimes.
Um, So, what is the process for optioning a manuscript for film like? I'm sure it's very complex, as everything is in the industry, but can you kind of give us like a simplified version? Because I have no knowledge of this whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's different for everybody. Because each deal is kind of specific. You go back and forth with the producer on what you want.
Hmm.
And, of course, they're going, my first deal that we made for Backwater, now that I look back, what wasn't great for me, but I was just so excited to get
Right.
anything, how you feel. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I'll take whatever. Just give me $2 and this is fine. Looking back, think I would have been really, really bitter had that worked out simply because they would have paid me, like this upfront fee and then maybe like a production bonus, if it went into production. And then a little bit on the back end, like some net points on the back end. Hollywood accounting I would urge everybody to look up Hollywood accounting
Oh,
and
that
how
sounds
that works.
terrifying.
If you're planning to make a deal, and I'm not the expert on this, but a lot of times the net profit for a studio is zero
Wow.
because they're able to, and like my production company I'm with now, I absolutely love them and trust them, but there are a lot of really shady ones out there. And
Yeah.
just even these big studios, look up some of the big films. I think like I want to say Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. I believe that one is still technically, has not made money,
Oh, wow.
but it has, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on
Fascinating.
paper. So I would just say do a deep dive into that yourself. So my producer now, I was able to ask for what I wanted. I won't go into specifics. Asked for what I wanted,
Right.
and he gave it to me. And that is such a blessing. Like I don't know anybody else who's made the deal that I was able to make, but he really wanted the project. He was passionate about it, and I'm passionate about it. And I know that, it's whenever we film, I'm going to be on set. My husband's going to
Mhm.
have to be on set every single day. Where we're going to be in the river bottom, like some of those places, people don't just let you in. You have to know somebody.
Yeah.
Kind of like Bob, not really, but um, so I knew that going in, I knew that I wouldn't just be handing a manuscript or a screenplay over. I knew what I was going to probably end up doing. And so I'm just, I'm so thrilled with everything that's happening. And I will receive a producer credit, and that's
Nice.
nice. That's a very nice. And I can't wait to see what happens with it. And I really enjoy working with other people adapting. I picked up a new project yesterday. I'm going to write a pilot for a series, a
Ooh.
fantasy series, and it's fun because fantasy is not something I don't write, but I
Mhm.
enjoy reading it, and I'm really looking forward to helping her.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And just a really brief segue from that. So, writing like a TV pilot is also a slightly different beast than a screenplay because you usually have
Yes.
less time and you don't go as far in the story, right? Because you're just kind of like introing like in a pilot and then
Right.
each,
At first, we talked about making it, a feature, but there is so much detail in a fantasy novel
Mhm.
that we're like, oh, we're gonna have to cut that, we're gonna have to cut that.
Yeah,
And she was like, I really don't want to cut any of that. And I said, we were talking back and forth and we decided, a series would probably work best. And honestly, any sort of fantasy,
yeah,
it does seem to be a series these days. And so yeah, that pilot episode, its job is to just hook you and make you need to click
to
on that
watch the
second
next one,
episode.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And I think it will be more true to her vision and true to her original
Mhm.
story if we do it that way.
Yeah, and then with a TV series, you wouldn't write the rest of the episodes, right? You just kind of like help with the pilot, and then if they hire you
Yeah.
on, you would continue.
Yes. Yeah. And I really like to help people learn the craft themselves,
Mhm.
if they so I'm talking to her about because she's interested in learning. I'm like, oh, well, I'll write your pilot, and then if you want to write you know, other episodes, it's a really good exercise to
Yeah.
see how you like it, if you want to do it, and it kind of would give her a foundation of something to look at, like what did I pick out to use?
Mhm.
A lot of times it's not just the writing it's the figuring out what's important part, and
Yeah.
that's the hardest part.
That is, and I think having like that outside person to come in, it's like that's where you would come in, right? Because as the
Yeah.
author, we're so attached to everything as we've already discussed. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and you have to think about in novels, everything any sort of internal thought or flashbacks or whatever, like you have, if the viewer doesn't see it, it doesn't exist. So
Right.
you have to show, and they're not going to know the backstory. And there's only so much voiceover and flashback that you want to do before it gets really weird and people are like,
Yeah.
flashback to their childhood, if it's not interesting, enough. So you really have to be careful with that. And yeah, a lot of times it takes somebody that's not close to the manuscript to see what what you should
Mhm.
do. But I really enjoy helping people kind of learn for themselves too, because it also helps me whenever we work together, they kind of understand, they're
Yeah.
less likely to be so attached and hang on and want to fight you over it, over
Mhm.
the we need this or that. They're more, apt to see that, oh, this is the right choice. This is how we have to do it. So it, you know, displays correctly.
Right, right. Um, so I feel like I already know maybe what your answer is going to be to my next question, but we're still going to ask it. So I've actually just the other day I did an interview with somebody whose first novel was based off of a screenplay that they had written in grad school. So they took that and they built it into a novel. I have another friend who is doing the same thing with a screenplay that they wrote, and so they're kind of adapting it into a novel. Do you personally find it easier to expand a screenplay to a manuscript or to pare down a manuscript into a screenplay? Which is your preference?
I actually have never written a screenplay first, and
Okay.
then, I feel like that would be harder to me
Yeah.
because sometimes with a book it's kind of, it can be a brain dump of all the things, in a novel, and then you can
Yeah.
kind of clean it up and make it hit all the points. And then to me it's easier to cut stuff than it is to add stuff. So I
Mhm.
feel like that is naturally easier for my brain anyways. Even with some people, every time they write a novel, they go way over the word count. I
Yes.
struggle to hit the word count because
Oh, really?
I tend to want to make it a little faster and like you always, like if I'm getting too descriptive, I'm like, this is too much. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like, let's get through it. Let's go to
Keep
the
the
next
pace up.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So but I have thought about, I'm about halfway through my third novel, writing it, and I have thought, should I go ahead and make this into a screenplay, and then maybe I can see kind of how it's going to end, because I don't plot novels. Some people
Mhm.
do. I kind of know, as long as I know where I start and where I want to end up, that's really all my brain
Okay.
needs to know. And then, like, whatever happens in there just happens. And I think for me, my work is more interesting when I do it that way. Because if I just sit down and think, okay, this person's going to do this, this, and this, and then this is going to happen to them, it ends
Yeah.
up being really
Not as
predictable.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so if I just kind of pants it through there, and I know that that's really not advice I would give anybody.
But
It's,
it
that's
is
just
because
how I do it.
I think that's important. Like to go back to the interview that I did just a couple days ago, she was the same way. She's like, I started out being a heavy plotter and then kind of transferred into this pantsing mode,
Yeah.
where I just let myself be and create because it was so freeing. And I think that's
Hmm.
important. People think, oh, we have to plot, we have to plot. But there's a part of this where you just have to be free to create and let things happen.
Yeah, and
So
it's whatever works for you. If
yeah.
plotting really works and that keeps you on task, it makes me feel like I'm in a prison cell. I don't do um because it's like if I know exactly what's going to happen, it just feels
Mm,
boring and I'm bored with it as I'm writing it. And I'm like,
yeah.
that's not a good sign. If I'm bored with it, then nobody's going to want to read this. And so it's really hard to tell in the book I'm writing now, in the I think the first chapter, second chapter, first one of the characters kills somebody, and I truly didn't till it happened. And then I was
Uh,
like, well, look at you. Now this changes everything. And it was the right
yeah.
move, but it wasn't something, I think people think we like sit around and like plan all this, and
Mhm.
you just really don't sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time I'm like I do a significant amount of plotting, not I don't have like spreadsheets and stuff. I know people who do like spreadsheets and have everything planned out.
Yeah, these
Um,
boards and
yeah, which is amazing. But I'm like, okay, if I just have a general direction, but then I like when my characters do out of pocket things. I'm like, I did not expect you to do or say that or whatever it is. and it's so
Mm-hmm.
authentic because
Yeah.
they just kind of like did it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I guess I did it, but they also did it. So,
You're letting their personality be them. And I
hmm,
think that's really important with anything is to let the characters be themselves. I can always
yeah,
tell when somebody tried to polish up a character into something
that they're just not.
somebody they're not, and it just doesn't ring true. And even if it's a work of fantasy or whatever, human nature is human nature, no
Yes.
matter how it's presented. And yeah, you can tell when somebody is just not being letting the characters be real.
Hmm. Yeah. No, and that's never as fun. So anyways, all of that to say, I think that that is actually fantastic advice to just, if that's what works, just go for it because there is no one correct way to write anything.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And sometimes people really act like they know, and I'm like, no, no, you
Yeah.
don't.
No, no.
Like if somebody is telling you this is a hard, fast rule, it's probably not.
Yeah. Don't ever believe that. There, like you said, or like I think when we first started, like we don't follow the rules. We do writers, we just do whatever we want.
And that's where editors and publishers, they have a totally different brain and
Hmm.
skill set coming into it that is really needed. To me, writing, it's a team, publishing anything is a team sport.
Yes.
It takes a lot of eyeballs, a lot of, for instance, backwater. Whenever I got my publishing contract, I think I counted, we passed that manuscript back and forth like 200 times or
Oh my
something
gosh. Wow.
crazy. It was, and it was just little bitty changes,
Yes.
but I feel like every single sentence has been loved on. And I'm a perfectionist, so is my publisher. So it really, I love that. I love when somebody's going to tell me the truth about something.
Yeah.
And I was telling someone yesterday that, from what I've seen, whether it's in publishing or screenwriting or, making movies or whatever, the main thing that will get you far is your ability to take feedback.
Yes.
If you can take it and not take it personally or emotionally, and sometimes what somebody tells you is good advice, sometimes it's not good advice, and they're trying to help, but it just may not
Right.
be advice. So you kind of learn the difference, but if it's somebody who definitely knows what they're talking about, if they bring something up, whether or not you use what they say to do, um, it's still an issue because if they thought it was an issue,
Yes.
somebody else who's reading it or watching it is also going to be like, huh, that doesn't quite.
Yeah. And you've
So,
got to find a way to address that in some fashion.
right. And even now, if I refer clients to my publisher, her number one question to me is, well, how easy are they to work with? How
Hmm.
can they take feedback? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. And she's like,
Yeah.
no, because you just don't, they don't have time. They don't have time
No.
to baby somebody's feelings. And that sounds really harsh, but that's just how it is.
Hmm. No, it makes a lot of sense. I know, there have been times when I've gotten feedback, either from a beta or like if I hire somebody for professional feedback, and I'll get it, I'll be like, oh no, they didn't even read my story. They didn't do anything. And it takes me 2 or 3 days, and I'm like, no, that's really smart. And I do need to fix that. They were right. But I almost have to run through that gamut of
Yeah, and it's
how
okay. I
dare.
mean, a lot of people cry,
Hmm.
when they get, and that's okay. You need to
Yeah.
let that out, and yeah, give yourself a few days to get over the feeling like you've been personally attacked
Yes.
by this feedback. Um, yeah, I mean, I have a good friend who received some feedback that was not what she wanted to hear. And honestly, she quit being my friend over it, even though I wasn't the one who did it.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
publisher who gave her some feedback that it was, and I'm just like, because it's so commonplace for me. Everything I get is looks like
Right.
it's been bled on, and I'm like, I'm weird. I kind of like that. I'm like, oh, good. You know what's wrong. Yay.
Me too. I like it too. I love when somebody's like, this is what I didn't like, and here's why. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, even if some of it kind of stings, it's
Hmm.
still, if somebody took the time to tell you some hard truth, it means
Yeah.
they love you. It doesn't mean
Yes.
they hate you and want to see you fail.
Yeah. And they're
Because
invested in whatever it is you're working on.
and we've all read stuff that was kind of hopeless. And honestly, my feedback for that is it's
Mm.
great. I love it. Because
Yeah.
there's nothing I really I don't have anything to say. And I've gotten to where I don't even beta read or anything anymore.
Hmm.
So I'm like, if I've taken the time to give you a critique, it means I see potential in you. And I think that's hard. That is hard to wrap your head around,
Yeah.
and sometimes it takes years to get used to that.
Yeah, it really does. It's one of the toughest parts, I think, of being a writer or a creative in any way is just to learn how to take that and then make something from it and not just let it push you down and make you stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard. I have like a lot of confidence, even um which I think I attribute to my family. They always raised me to be a very
Mm.
confident person. So I always feel like, well, if I messed up and I don't know that, I can learn it.
Yes.
I can learn anything and anybody can. So don't ever let anybody tell you you can't learn something new. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
almost 40. I feel like my career is just now really taken off. So, I mean, I think Laura Ingalls was like in her 60s when she wrote the Little House series. I was
Yeah.
telling that the other day. I'm like, that's wild to me. I'm so glad she did. But yeah, yeah, you
Yeah,
just
there's so
kind of
many stories. Like we love the media loves to put those stories out of like, and this person was 21 and they already have 3 books and are doing this. And like, that's so awesome for them. But there's so many of us. I mean, I'm 45, and I'm still querying agents, but I have
yeah.
confidence I'm going to do this. Like
Yeah.
you just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I wasn't ready to write a book in my 20s because I
Hmm.
didn't have anything to say. I didn't have a story yet. I had to live a little bit
Yeah.
to kind of and learn some human nature. I had a hair salon for 20 years. That's a lot of human nature. You hear
Yes.
a
Oh my
lot.
gosh.
People tell you everything.
Yes, they do.
And yeah. And I loved it, but yeah, I had to live a little bit and kind of figure out what I wanted to write about. And I know that's different. Some people are ready to write a book at 20,
Right.
but most people aren't, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like I had something to write at 20, but it was not good. And it was just me like taking all the media and all the books I had consumed and like regurgitating them in what I thought was an
Yes.
original way, and it was not.
Always practice.
Yeah,
That's
like it,
really
it
hard.
it got me somewhere. So
It's hard to find what I struggled with at first was to find my voice
mhm,
and kind of let that flow because my first drafts were kind of copies of other people's voices, things I had
right.
read, their style of writing. And I say all the time, I don't know if you've ever read The Girls by Emma Cline.
No, I
You'll have to
haven't.
look it up. It's literary fiction and it's her writing is just so good. Even though almost every single sentence is a fragment,
Okay.
you just need to read it. And I'm really glad I read that book because it kind of something clicked in my brain and I was like, you know what? I can just write with the voice that I want to write with. It doesn't have
Yes.
to be this little perfect shiny thing like other people's. And that
Hmm.
really helped me kind of get out of a commercial sounding voice that I knew wasn't authentic to me. I'm not that perfect. I'm not that, I think a little differently. So it gave me the permission, I guess,
Yeah.
to sound like myself.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, so manuscripts, we've kind of discussed this already. We have beta readers, editors. You talked about moving your manuscript back 200 sometimes before it reached the shelf. What does that look like for a screenplay? Like how many people usually work on it and who gives final approval?
So, in my experience, it's definitely a team sport.
Mhm.
Of course, I've been assigned some other screenwriters that are more seasoned to help at first, but with my producer now, he and I have gone back and forth, but really, my director and I have have done the most work together on
Okay.
it because they're kind of the ones who are going to be boots on the ground, fixing the shot. And there's some things that he thought of that I didn't, as far as, hey, let's think about, this character, this shot. Could we make him do this? In fact, the very opening to Backwater didn't exist until recently because the main character's love interest, it's all told from her point of view, like, and so the love interest backstory was really critical for the film, but the way she got information in the book was other people telling her things. That doesn't usually work out
Right.
on, that's a lot of dialogue, and people are like, thanks for making us sit through this. So we open the movie actually with a scene from her love interest childhood that was kind of a foundational scene that made him who he is. And it
Right.
really helps you connect with him once he's grown and see, like, why is he doing the things he's doing? Why is he fighting her on this? And
Hmm.
so, it was little things like that that we were like, we need to show a little bit more of that instead of relying on people, you know, revealing it in dialogue because the less dialogue you can have, the better, I feel
Okay.
like. I mean,
Fascinating.
sometimes you need really in-depth conversations
Yeah.
for something, but it's if you can show it and not tell it, even on screen, do it.
Hmm.
If you can reveal something about somebody with no words being said, that's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. Because I did, I teach high school, and sometimes we watch a film. And my kids will get angry with me because I pause it every 2 seconds and I'm like, okay, what did you notice? Like, what are they doing? Where was this
Yeah.
character looking? What was happening? Because so much of that is just implied. And it's just
Hmm.
not something like until our conversation right now, I never thought about that like in the context of writing a screenplay, that of course it would just be implied. So thank you.
Oh,
That's my
you're
epiphany
welcome.
for the day.
Sometimes talking to somebody else about
Yeah.
something, I'll have an aha moment too. Um,
Yeah, like it just connected all the dots for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I tell my kids about this, but I never thought about, yeah.
why?
So yeah.
Yeah, like why did they make that character do that or
Yes. Yeah.
whatever? And in Save the Cat, I don't know if you read it, but it's a really good book. And he
Mhm.
always says that I forgot what page it's supposed to happen on, but pretty early on, the main character needs to have a save the cat moment because they
Yes.
can be like the most brutal mob boss killer in the world. But if they pause to help a little lady across the street, we
Hmm.
automatically are like, you know what? We're going to forgive you for all the bad stuff you're doing
Right.
because, like, I think you have a good heart. Um, Rip on Yellowstone is a prime example. Like,
Yeah.
if you really think about him, like, he's the murderer for, for the ranch. Um, but he's really great to Beth and he's really loyal to the people he loves. And so we're like, we're willing to forget all of
Yeah.
that. Think you're hot,
Yeah.
So,
100% on board.
yeah, you had a rough childhood. We'll forgive you. The writer's journey, I didn't even know what the hero's journey was. Like I had no
Mm.
idea what that was. And so after I wrote the whole manuscript, I went back and was like, I really hope that there's a character arc here because I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a
Right.
character arc is, a story arc, any of that. And whenever I compared it, I was like, oh my gosh, I unintentionally hit all the marks. I guess just because I had read a lot,
Hmm.
and so my brain just kind of naturally made.
Instinctually
And I
did
was
it. Yeah.
so thankful for that. But then kind of once you learn, the basics, which I'm sure a lot of other people already know, especially if they've taken a writing class, but I didn't have that luxury. I didn't know any other writers. I had never
Right.
I'm just not the college type. I don't care to go and sit through a class.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think that's so true for a lot of writers. I know so many who either like they went to school for something else, like
Yeah.
doctor, lawyer, physical therapist, education. Um, and then we're like, okay, we're also going to write. So we're all self-taught, and you just did the exact same thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have several friends who've done that too. And
mhm.
writing is not, I mean, even my publisher, she went to Yale and has a master's from Emerson in publishing and writing. And she's like, they they teach you a lot, but as far as being a writer, you just either have the talent or you don't for storytelling, because you can know all the writing rules in the world and
Hmm.
still not be a storyteller, still not have anything, still not be able to craft something interesting that somebody wants to read. And that really helps my boost my confidence for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So I think that, and again, I think that's one of those things that's important for people to hear is that you don't need to like have prior knowledge. Like you can just go out and you can write that messy first book, and you're going to learn from it, and then you get feedback, and you keep learning and keep growing and you keep evolving.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
right as if nobody is ever going to see it except
Yes.
you make or sometimes it helps to have like somebody specific in mind, like your best friend who really
Hmm.
wants to read it,
Yeah.
and pretend like you're writing it for her or him, and don't worry about what anybody else is going to think. Some of
Yes.
the best writing I've done is kind of things that I was a little embarrassed to kind of put on the page, but
Hmm.
that those are the things that the audience connects with the most, is something that you're a little scared to
Yes.
maybe go there or talk about. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that unique. It's pretty universal,
Yeah.
people's emotions or feelings, or you know, if my character is having an ugly thought, I let them have an ugly thought, because that's how people are. People aren't just these little perfect, always making the
No.
right decisions kind of people. And it helps to see it and see that, oh, you can really screw up and then, you know, be redeemed in the end
Yeah.
by, make it right. So my character right now in my book I'm writing, she's really had a rough life and made some really questionable decisions, more so than any of my other characters. And it's been fun to kind of let myself explore that a
Yeah.
little bit more where
Yeah. I love messy characters. Like one
Mhm.
of my favorite things, and the messier the better. I want so many flaws.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it just makes it so much more real, because even the best
Yes.
person in the world is not a perfect person, and they're
No.
gonna have really bad days and do some really shitty stuff
Yeah.
sometimes.
Makes me feel better about myself. I'm like, okay, cool. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Like,
like
wow, I really
I'm like
screwed
this
that
cuckoo
up.
over
And
here.
yeah, and it also kind of helps people realize that you can come back from that. You can say
Yes.
you're sorry and make it right and do the right thing, even if you feel
Hmm.
like it's too far gone.
Yeah, we get to
Nothing.
have our own character arcs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what has it been like to kind of work on your screenplay for Backwater? We discussed a little bit of how like you had to change, not change, didn't have to, but how you alter at the beginning. Is there anything else that you've had to take out or drastically shift in order to really make this work for on screen without going into
Amazingly,
specifics? Because no
yeah,
spoilers.
no. Amazingly, it has stayed pretty true to the
Oh, that's
original
great.
thing. It's only had little tweaks. Now we have added some scenes like Mark Nessler and Jennifer Nessler. They're doing the soundtrack and they live in
Mm,
Nashville. They've had a lot of hits and stuff, and they're amazing people. And they've written some theme songs and brought some other really cool songwriters on board. And so there's one scene near the end where we just kind of had like a festival type atmosphere, but we went ahead and inserted a live band to play the song that we need to
hmm.
be played in that spot, like things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will kind of change a little more too as we move forward and
Hmm.
that gets fleshed out.
No, that's so cool. I guess because I like when I think about that and I think about all the movies I've seen, and I've read the book or I've read the original work, and I'm like, wait, they left this out. And then we all get snobby about it, right? Because we're like, well, they don't know about this. But then having to realize that sometimes they just have to for time or,
Yeah. I hope people will be okay with what was left out, knowing that I got to choose at least.
yeah.
Maybe it'll make them feel better. Because yeah, there was a lot that got left out that was really hard to do, but it just, kind of had to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, some of that stuff just does not translate onto screen as well. Um,
Yeah. Unless it's like a series where you can show every little thing.
yes.
And Backwater is set up in a way that it could be a standalone movie, or things could be added to it later if it was, the beginning of a series or something.
Yes.
So that's kind of exciting, but yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Um, so what has it been like getting to work with other authors, producers, and studios to bring people's stories to life? So other projects other than your own, just
Yeah.
what has that been like? How has it influenced or grown your own creative methods?
It's it's been really cool because some of the stuff is like stuff I would never have chosen to write or thought I
Right.
even could or even could work
Like the
on or
fantasy pilot.
yeah, like fantasy or something set in, Victorian England,
Neat.
like different things like that. That I even though I really like reading some of that stuff, I just didn't really think, ooh, I'm talented enough to to go there. And it's been different. It's been really good. No, I've had some things that I've worked on that I could not keep close
Hmm.
enough to the original work that I kind of spent a lot of time doing, but in the end it didn't work out and they ended up
Yeah.
using another screenwriter. So I mean, you win some, you lose some, and that's fine. But it taught me a lot. I think
Right.
mostly it taught me that if I am reading something that I know is not going to work the way it is, and I'm going to have to change too much to probably go ahead and just walk away from that instead of
Hmm.
trying to force it into something to try to make it work on screen when it was never going to work to begin with, and the author is not going to give in because they have it in
Right.
their head it's great as
They
is.
want one thing and
It,
yeah,
it
they
would, and it works as a book, but sometimes when things get changed for screen, it really freaks them out. So you just kind of have to, I think I'm going to interview people a little harder
uh
going forward. Feel like exactly how much before I
yeah.
spend money on this.
There does
Yeah.
there really does need to be like a screening process in that sense. Like I know the best success I've had with professional editors that I've worked with, they ask me like some really tough questions, like what are your expectations? And I need you to like write a mini essay, um, as opposed to just like, sure, I'm gonna do this, because they wanted to make sure that I was actually in the right spot to take that feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, a lot of times it is, where are you in this journey? Are you
Hmm.
the easiest people to work with are the people who've been around a while.
Yes.
They've gotten kicked around and they kind of are to the point where they're ready. They're ready for feedback. They're ready for help. And
Hmm.
a lot of, especially a lot of people who've had agents and kind of seen what that world is trying to get a traditional publisher. I find that they're kind of more ready because it's almost like they've been to war and
Yes.
they're like nothing phases me now,
Yeah.
they've faced so much rejection that somebody just telling them, giving any sort of help, they're so grateful for, whereas somebody who's just starting out, who maybe has only self-published maybe one thing, and they're just not ready yet to
Right.
receive feedback, hard feedback. So yeah, I think but it's been really fun working on people's things and kind of seeing what they're doing, and letting your brain think outside the box
Hmm.
is how it could be shown.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds awesome. Again, I don't know as though it's something I ever want to pursue. I will totally hire somebody to do my
Yeah. Well, and
if I get to that point.
sometimes
But
I
yeah.
think anybody can learn it, but
Hmm.
sometimes it does help to see like how would somebody translate something of yours, and then
Yes.
you can kind of, and then you may go on to do all of your own stuff from then
Hmm.
on, but it does help to see like
Yeah.
that works with a manuscript that's yours instead of
Yeah.
somebody else.
No, I agree. That's how I do my query letters. I'm always like, all right, best friends, you've read this. Help me write my, and I kind of have them do like a rough draft, and then I can
Those are
work
the
from there.
hardest.
Yeah,
A
because
synopsis is terrible.
yes.
Nobody likes that. A query's bad, but a synopsis is even worse. And it's because
Yeah.
we're so like bored with it. We're so,
Hmm.
we're like, we don't want to tell every little detail, but publishers and stuff usually do want to see that because they want to see, can you plot, does this
Yes.
have a plot?
Yeah.
Do are there stakes? Are there no stakes? Is everything just kind of vague?
Hmm.
And they're fine with the spoilers. A lot of times writers are real funny about they don't want to give any spoilers. Like, believe me, they're not that invested in the story. They want to see, can you craft a story that makes
Yes.
sense? They're not like a reader who's like, don't tell me. They're like,
Yeah.
no, please.
Completely different beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure that just like publishing, film industry is very elusive with dates and things, and it's all vague. But can you tell us, give us any hints of when we'll be able to watch Backwater?
So right now we're in the phase of talking to investors.
Okay.
So if everything goes well and we get investment soon, we would like to start filming next spring.
Okay.
So, and then, it takes time. All the after it's shot, it takes time
Mm,
to wrap it all up and all of that. So I have no idea when, and it's a lot of the stuff I work on has been optioned and things, but you know, being optioned is one thing, actually going into production is
production.
another, and or even making it to this step of approaching investors because your producer makes this huge like pitch deck. So it's like a
Yeah.
slideshow, of everybody who's attached or interested in the project, how much money it can make an investor, and
Hmm.
then like my producer went further and went ahead and did shot lists and all kinds of extra stuff, this huge budget breakdown, which is like a million
Oh, I would
slides.
imagine.
Been really neat to see how all that works because at first you're like, you're asking for how much money?
Yeah.
And then you realize once you see it itemized that like no one person is getting rich off this. It just takes a
A
lot
lot of.
of people and a lot of, some of the settings, for a few days could cost $50,000 just for a
Hmm.
couple of days to shoot in a certain location. And about half of the budget usually goes to marketing. I
Oh,
didn't realize
wow.
that. So, I mean, you can make the best movie ever, but if nobody's ever heard of it,
No one's going to watch it, right?
no one's
Right.
going to watch it. No butts are in the seats. So that was interesting to learn too, just how much
Yeah.
goes into marketing
So I think
anything.
I think what all of our viewers are maybe now thinking is that publishing seems really fast compared with movie production.
It's all crazy because I don't really know that I'm the poster child for how anything goes because it's all
Right.
just been so I do just feel like God opened so many doors
Hmm.
once I got to a space. It took me 7 years to get traditionally published. And honestly, it was a me problem. It was not a book problem. It was a me problem because I think I held on to thinking I was in control of it.
Gotcha.
And, I just wasn't. God was in control. And the minute I gave that control up, 15 minutes later, I got a call
Oh,
that I
wow.
was going to be published. That's
Yeah.
not coincidence. That's just not. And every single thing that has happened afterwards has been easy. Like,
Yeah.
and I struggled so much in those first years. So, I mean, that's just kind of my own story. But it was so dramatic to me that it can't be anything else. So you can try all you want. And I'm a very go-getter person.
Hmm.
I do feel like I'm capable of anything, even if I'm not. And so that was really hard for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna let this go and
Right.
not try to control this situation.
Yeah, and that is something I think that a lot of us writers really have to come to grips with because we're like, I did this and I'm going to get an agent and I'm going to get published and I'm going to do this. And there's very little of it aside from the actual production, like creation of the manuscript that we have any control over.
Exactly. And, looking back, some of those things I first wished for, now that I know what I know, that would have
Hmm.
been the total wrong move. I would have been
Yeah,
miserable. Or they would have signed one book and published me and probably dropped me because they didn't like my second one or
right, right.
whatever, if you're not a huge seller. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. And, I had agents that were very nice, but my very first agent, he was like the number one seller in the world. And whenever I got him, I was like, oh my God, I've
Yeah,
made it, and this is smooth sailing from here. Girl, no.
nothing happened.
Um,
Yeah.
no, he 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 basically blast out the pitch in a an email that was not personalized or anything to like 30 or 40 editors at once, all in the same email, which is like, you don't even do that.
Yeah.
And looking back, there was so many writers that got away from him that ended up trying to speak out about, I won't say his name because I don't want to be sued, but he would send them a letter saying he was going to sue them.
Oh,
So you
wow.
have to be very, very careful. They can look really shiny online,
Yeah, you've
and
always
be
got to do
really
your research.
terrible. Yeah, be really terrible people. And now that I know what I know, a lot of it, I even had one editor call me on the phone. She's like, I don't want to put this in an email, but I just delete all of his submissions because he's such a horrible human that I
Uh-huh.
won't work with him, because it was like a puppy mill, but a rider mill kind of a
Yes.
thing. And but you don't see that. All you see is his big sellers that he's doing really well with. So, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful I went through all of that because it has helped me talk about it and help other people too. And I'll send you his name privately.
Oh, please do, because I do collect those.
Don't
And
worry.
also, not something like that we'll share, but there is a website called Writers Beware. Um,
Yes.
and so
Yeah, and
Scribblers, if you
I've
look that
spoken.
up, it's got great
Yep.
stuff on it about who you should
In fact,
avoid and who's
I
legit.
think she has done some articles on
Yeah,
him. I don't know if they're still up or if he threatened to sue her. Who knows?
right.
Victoria Strauss, is that
Mhm.
who?
I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
talked to her before.
Yeah. Great
Yeah,
website. Great website.
yes, yes. Please go on there and do your research. And it's hard to, sometimes things happen and a writer's just disgruntled, or I'm not
Right.
saying every agent that somebody's had issues with is toxic, but there are some who literally I don't know if they just get so jaded by the industry in general, which
Mm.
is easy to do, and maybe they just kind of quit caring, but they should
Yeah.
just really out if that's the case.
Yeah. And just not everybody's going to work well together. I mean, I know a lot of writers, a lot of friends I have, they're on like their second or third agents, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. They just didn't fit well together with that first one and ended up not being the right union.
Yeah.
It's like dating. You just gotta
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
you gotta
Yeah,
get
my
together, break up,
my
find somebody new.
my second and third agent were perfectly great people. My second agent in particular that I went to the writers retreat with, I still really admire him.
Mhm.
We just weren't a good fit at the time,
Right.
and it was really nothing he did or that I did. And he had a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm a very needy person. And I was like, I'm just really going to need some feedback sooner than I know you're able to give it. So, I'm probably going to move on. And yeah, that's just kind of people's personalities. You can't control that.
Right.
But there are definitely people out there who are scamming people
Yeah.
literally and ruining their chances, just whether they mean to or not.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and it just goes back to like that's one of the other pieces of advice I always remember hearing is no agent is better than a bad agent.
yes,
So you
yes.
just don't settle. Don't settle.
A
You got to
lot of
wait till you
small
find that one.
presses,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of small presses will accept, unagented
Hmm.
submissions just fine. And really it's about nailing your pitch, personalizing it, making the
Yes.
whoever you're sending it to feel like you picked them on purpose. It's not a dear agent or
Hmm.
dear publisher. Like, do some research on what they have done, who they've worked with. That'll get you a whole lot farther. And I've worked for a literary agency in foreign rights before,
Hmm.
and learned a lot about foreign rights sales. And it's the same thing. If you personalize your stuff and take the time, spend 30 minutes or an hour on that pitch, you'll get a lot further.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so last question before we get to our lightning round.
Okay.
What are you most excited for viewers to see in the film adaptation of Backwater? Be it a character, a specific chapter, or a vibe?
Probably just the setting itself is its own character.
Hmm.
It it's really a part of the world that isn't really seen as far as the culture
Yeah.
goes, because we're made up of, in East Texas especially, we have French and Cajun French Creole, all kinds of different ethnicities and stuff. And we each have our own vibe, but there's a lot of Cajun music, a lot of country music, rap, R&B, soul. So all those music, the food, we have German settlements, Mexican. There's a lot. It's a very colorful area,
Yeah.
and I didn't really realize that as much until we started traveling. We would go some places like up north, especially, and I'm like, everybody looks the same. Like there is no diversity here, and I didn't realize
Yeah.
how, and I'm like, I'm just ready to see somebody that doesn't look just like me,
Hmm.
because like this is boring. So I didn't realize that as much until I went somewhere, traveled.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for people to see that, and just like we have a houseboat out on the river, and a lot of people we know have houseboats, and some of them live there full time.
Right.
They literally like live off the land. And there's a lot, people talk about homesteading or whatever, and these people never stopped.
Hmm.
They know more about the land and survival than your
Yeah.
average person. And I'm excited to kind of show that.
No, that sounds amazing. I'm really excited. So, like, investors, get on it.
I
Hurry
know,
up the process here.
we're ready.
You have fans that are waiting. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so we have reached the lightning round questions. These are some of my favorites because this is where I feel like we really get to know you.
Okay.
Okay, so your first question. What is the best tasting color of M&M?
I think blue, and I don't know why,
Yes.
because I truly I can't even conjure what the difference is in my head, but I think I would pick a blue one.
I think everybody I've ever asked that question, blue is always and I don't know why. I
Really?
agree. Yeah, but it is. It's the blue ones. And
Like,
there's no
why are
scientific
those?
reason. I don't know.
I don't know. Red, anything red,
Yeah,
has a certain wang to it. It's probably the red 40 that kills us,
right.
or that's probably my body is like, no, no, don't eat this.
Yeah, so it's always blue. So you are in good company. One day I will meet somebody who doesn't say blue, and I'm gonna have a lot of questions for them.
Yeah.
All right, question two. What's a film that you think is better than the book?
Ooh, you know, oh, let me come back to that one.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to think about that
All
one.
right, we'll circle back.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to jump to question three, and that
Mhm.
is if you had to be sworn in at court on something other than a religious text, what would you choose?
Mm, I'm tempted to say, because my longtime favorite has been Anne of Green Gables. I love all of her work,
Hmm.
and I have since I was really young. But I think I would say Christie by Catherine Marshall. It's
Okay.
old. It's an old one, but it really inspired me to write something authentic, because it's based on her mom,
Hmm.
and her mom going into the Appalachian Mountains, and so that book really means a lot to me. That's one of my very favorites.
So if you're going to swear on that, that's like you are telling the God's honest truth. No. Amazing.
Let's hope I win either way.
Yes, amazing. Um,
Okay, so I think I was thinking, and it's been forever since I've read this book, and I'm not trying to drag the book at all.
mhm.
It's always hard, but probably Fried Green Tomatoes. I really
Ooh, okay.
liked the movie. I thought they did really good with that movie.
Hmm.
And the book has a lot more to it, but I feel like it was a little slower than the movie. So if I was going to choose one, I would always
Yeah.
pick it for sure.
Yeah. No, sometimes like a movie just makes it punchier sometimes. It's just
Yeah,
more
yeah.
intriguing.
Even Out of Africa, I had that
Yeah.
book, and the language is beautiful, but it is way different. And
Yes.
they did such a good job with, Robert Redford and all it. They did a really good job in that movie of showing the story without much dialogue. If you
Hmm.
really go through and watch, they didn't over explain anything, and you could just tell what, because it was
Yeah.
such good actors in the setting, and everything was so good.
Yeah. No, there's both of those are excellent choices. I always think of the original Color Purple with Whoopi Goldberg. Um,
Yes,
because
yeah.
like I love the book, but that movie is just so well done. And they took like that book is complex and complicated and it's all written in letters and they did such a good job
Yes.
um
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
again telling it with like very little, and I mean there are some voiceovers and there's things like that, but wow,
Mhm.
such so
Or
well done.
even Forrest Gump,
Yes.
that's an iconic movie. They did so well.
Yes.
Tom Hanks is such a good actor anyways.
Hmm.
But they did a really good job of fitting all that. When you really think about it, you're like, oh, they fit a lot of stuff
So much.
into a
Yes.
movie with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So it's
So,
I always I just love looking at kind of comparing things. I'm like, okay, like what did they get right and how did they nail it? And so I love when I do see a movie that I'm just like 100% like I would watch the movie anytime over reading the book again. So
yeah. And there are some like I really loved Where the Crawdads Sing the movie. I mean, not the
mhm.
movie, the book. And I do think they did amazing on the movie too, but since most of the book was like internal thought and this little girl
Yeah.
surviving on her own, that would have been boring to show, but there was so much it was so much richer in the
Yeah.
book and I felt like it was more uplifting. Like the movie, I was
Mhm.
like scream crying by the end
Oh
of it. I'm
no.
like, I don't remember feeling this sad with the book.
Really, they focused it on a slightly, they just like shifted the lens a little bit, really.
Yeah, yeah, there was so much drama, whereas the book had a lot of like happiness too, even when she
Mhm.
was alone. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
just kind of different vibe.
Oh, fascinating. All right, your fourth question. If you could watch any film again for the first time and just completely re-experience the magic, what would it be?
Oh. Mm. Okay, this is super cliche to say, and I don't know, this is like not even stylish now. I'm an old woman. I love classic
Yeah.
movies since I was a kid that I would go in, back when we had video rental stores.
Yes,
Luckily, our
I
hometown
remember
one,
those.
the owner of it really loved classic movies. And like nobody rented them except this one at like age 7 and 8. So I've seen pretty much every classic movie that ever existed, musicals and whatever. But I would have to say, Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
I
wow.
really, I think they did a really good job, and
Yeah.
I'm really glad they haven't made a remake of it because I would probably hate it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and
No, excellent
I think
answer.
yeah, I think as far as everything, because those actors just nailed it.
Hmm.
There'll never be another Scarlett O'Hara that did it like she did it, or
No.
a Rhett Miller who did it like he did it.
Do you remember how old you were the first time you saw it?
I don't, probably really young. I mean, probably 8 or 7 or 8, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a big fan of all of the classic musicals, Seven Brides for
Right.
Seven Brothers, Calamity Jane, like. And it's funny because you kind of end up finding your own tribe. All of my best friends, even as adults now, like I can start humming one of those songs and they're like, yeah, like we
Yes.
know the dances to it. It's so nerdy.
Fantastic.
Let's bring back the musical, like not modern musicals either. Let's make them like they used to make them.
Yes.
There was something about whenever they filmed on actual film too. I've had a lot of conversations with people in movie making now, and I didn't realize what had changed. I was like, I just don't feel connected to these new movies. And they were like, well, it's all film, it's all digital. And they were like, it
Yeah.
does lose something. And I'm like, so now when I look back, the stuff in the 90s kind of was the last, on real film,
Right,
and
right.
it just has a different feel. I really
It
wish
really
they would
does.
go back to it.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
times like I'll watch an older, I've always watched a lot of Westerns with my dad, so a lot of John Wayne films.
Same. Yeah.
Um,
Clint
yeah, and I'll
Eastwood.
watch those and I'll be like, oh, this has a completely different, just textural like appeal on the screen.
Yeah.
And same thing, I watched like a VHS a while ago. Like somebody had a VCR and put the VHS in, and I was just like, wow, is this picture bad? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah, like it was just wild. And it necessarily wasn't bad. It was just now that you said like it's digitized, it's completely different like visual appeal.
It almost makes it, yeah, like too glossy and too perfect.
Hmm.
So you almost feel like you're not watching real people or something.
Yes.
And there's something kind of, I don't care, which I know that you can't really get away from it, but I do
Right.
know some cinematographers who are able to make it seem more like film. And
Hmm.
I really need to have a talk with ours for Backwater and be like, can we make this look
Can we
like
do that?
film
Yeah.
instead of, yeah, is that possible?
Yeah, because it is. I mean, and I think sometimes that helps with like that distance of realizing that okay, this is a story and I am being entertained rather than watching it and feeling like that visceral realness.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it kind of separates it from like a video game or like
Hmm.
a social
Or the
media with
news
filters
or
where
yeah.
everything is so filtered. But yeah, I really never knew why I didn't feel like an emotional connection and until somebody brought that up and I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. So now I
Yeah,
can't unknow it. I'm like, I kind of wish I didn't know it.
oh, so true. Sometimes you cannot unring those bells. So
Mm.
awesome. Well, Scribblers, you can find links to all of Kate's webpage below. Make sure you check it out, order her book, so that way you can read it before you watch it, or you can get in contact with her about adapting your own novels for film. Kate, thank you so much for joining the Scribblers Den interview alum. It's been so fun chatting with you, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it and I enjoy getting to know you too.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Again, investors invest. I'm never sure which side of the screen
Please
my
give us
interview
the
is going to, yeah,
money.
invest, send the money. Um, all right, Scribblers, you know the drill. I need you to hit that like button. I need you to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.